Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are listening. Thank you so much for joining us here again for episode number 4 of The Standard Paradox. My name is David Hall. You see, I nailed the intro this time.
Yeah, that's right.
Didn't get the name wrong. We're off to a great start. My name is David Hall. I am, of course, joined, as always, by the wonderful Connor Moon.
Yep.
How you doing, man?
Dude, I'm doing well. This is going to be fun. I enjoy talking with our guests, and so I think it's going to be a great podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited. We are joined by the effervescent Brian Vance. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing good. It's good to be here with y'all.
Yeah, it's great. You are our first nighttime guest on the Standard Paradox.
Yeah.
We're recording this at what time is it? It's pretty late.
8:09.
It's 8:09 in the evening. We're here. We did plan on doing this a little bit earlier, but Brian had more important things to do.
No, not more important. It just went a little over. Had a little more planned than we could get through. So
You were coaching, right?
yes, coaching baseball, and so at Bowdon High School, and we were scrimmaging and competing and things like that, and it just we were competing, so I let it keep going.
Good competing?
Well, at the end, it was actually me pitching versus some of our other guys. And they got to choose who competed against me. And some of them touched me up pretty good, but I did finish out with a strikeout. So
Hey, look at that.
Ooh. Did
Who
you
w-
call it then?
I was gonna
Were you
say,
like, it's
who-
over now?
I did not call it. No,
Okay.
there was 3 guys, and they all got 2 ABs, 2 at-bats against me. And the last one was a front door curveball.
Who was
Strike
calling
three
the
one.
balls and strikes?
My assistant coach. He was,
Sounds like there could have been some dodgy calls going on there.
I was about to say, like, Brian calling like this.
No, I made sure that didn't
Oh, that was
happen.
definitely a strike.
They'll call me out on that pretty quick.
Yeah.
Pretty quick.
I've been sort of, by necessity, basically, living in the greater Atlanta area, been forced into learning baseball over the last, 18 months. Atlanta Braves
Mhm.
winning it all.
World
Yep.
champions, baby.
World champions of the United States.
I don't get
Well,
it either,
it
but-
would have been North America. However, this year with COVID, there was no Canada team. So
Is there
Did-
usually a Canada team?
Toronto, the Blue Jays,
Wait, they didn't play at all?
they didn't play in Toronto. They played in a different location.
Okay, I was going to say, but they still had a team.
They
and-
did.
Right. Okay. So, well, but
Yeah.
hey, they did a great job. I always like to say now that I am the greatest gift that Georgia/Atlanta has ever received
Absolutely.
in regards to sports, because there was this unbelievable drought with the Braves, with Georgia
Bulldogs,
football, the Bulldogs. I know this might hurt you, Connor, to talk about, but like I am their salvation. I arrive here.
Go Dogs. Absolutely.
Look, it might sound like I'm tooting my own horn here, but the logic speaks for
Exactly.
itself. I arrive, the drought ends.
You can't deny it.
Exactly, just makes perfect sense.
Has
What do you-
Kirby called you yet, or is it?
Well, no,
Okay.
I'm operating under the radar.
I think he's trying to find David because he's been going to like Villarica and Hurd County.
He's been in the
He's
area.
been all around.
That's
he's trying
true.
to find him. He can't
Yeah.
find him.
I am a free agent coming up.
You just shoot up
So-
the flare.
Well, I'm
know
just
where
gonna
you are.
kind of pitch myself to different states.
Free
Be
agent
like,
look charm.
Y'all want to win? Sign me up. I don't even need to play. I just need to be in the local area.
I need a legal address. Yeah.
Exactly. That's all I need. I just need an address,
Just give me
a bank account.
Oh, that's good.
That's
A
how
bank
it's going to
account.
work.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be a millionaire.
Mm.
You guys are welcome to come with me if you like.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if anybody's out there listening to this who needs a championship, just let me know.
Yeah, I don't.
David is for hire.
Anyway, we actually are, believe it or not, a spiritually kind of led, aimed
That's good.
podcast. We kind of like to speak every week about people's different experiences with faith, how they've, adjusted to different circumstances in their lives where they may be expected to be one thing and not another. Had a great success with it so far.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, you are, I believe, our first official teacher on the podcast. You know, Luke, you would maybe consider a teacher of sorts, Mackenzie as well, being a middle school leader, but you are our first in the classroom at a public school teacher.
On the battlefield.
So I hear.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you, tell us a little bit about that, how you got into that maybe, and you're still doing that today, so.
Yes, I actually today had a visit from a former student, former player, who was going to shadow me for a little while, and it was interesting. I was reflecting with him today. He's like, how did you get into teaching? And I was like, well, my mom was my number one answer. She taught for 32 years at Ephesus Elementary School in Heard County, and she's probably my inspiration for doing what I do. She's incredible. Loved on kids. I just watched her love on kids for so much of my life. And then loved math and got into high school and started learning high school math. And I had a high school math teacher, Linda Hurst, and she just loved on me. Taught me all 4 years, which doesn't happen.
All 4 years? Same teacher?
All 4 years. She just somehow walked all the way up with our class.
Wow.
All the way up through the years.
Thank God you got on.
Yeah. And so she was really the one that told me, you need to teach high school math. And I was like, nah, I'm going to play baseball.
Yeah, right?
I'm not going to be a teacher. Come on. But, it was kind of my backup plan. And, I wanted to be a Major League Baseball player.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we didn't have Twitter, Instagram, and all that kind of stuff to see what all these Division I and Major League players do. And anyway, so I ended up going to UGA and got on as a student manager up there. And
what is that?
So student manager is, and Coach Perno gave me a lot of actual responsibility probably that wasn't really student manager-ish, but really kind of help out with equipment and get to know the players and help them out and whatever their needs are as far as like batting gloves, bats, take care of laundry, getting uniforms ready, that kind of thing, and really traveling with the team wherever they go.
Okay.
And Coach Perno, he knew I wanted to be a coach. And so, once I got into UGA and I decided I wasn't going to play at the next level because I wanted to go ahead and pursue my teaching and coaching career, he allowed me to kind of jump in and start helping out a little more than what a manager would, kind of as an assistant. And I'm forever grateful for him
awesome.
allowing me to do that. And so I got to throw BP to some guys that are still playing, that are playing in the big leagues now. Gordon Beckham, Rich Poythress was one of my favorites to throw to all the time. Josh Fields, like all those guys that played at UGA, Colby May. That's a dude we need to come back to and talk about. He's a spiritual influence in my life, big time. But met Colby there at UGA as well, and just really got my start probably in understanding what it was like to coach and to be around the game almost 24/7. And so anyway, doing all the dirty work, doing the laundry, doing things like that, but trading off and being able to, instruct some outfielders, instruct some infielders and hitters and things like that. I just got to learn a lot about the game. And so 4 years of doing that, got my first job in Jackson County, which is just up there north of Athens at where UGA is, and taught and coached for 6 years in Jackson County up there. And that was a really awesome it kind of reminds me of this area. Jackson County and Carroll County remind me a lot of each other. There's a city in Jackson County called Jefferson, and like there's a city, in Carroll County, Carrollton, and very similar in build and also in like, I guess, ruralness.
Yeah.
With the people, and the people are so nice up there. People are so nice here. Like it's really seemed like we were at home, but just up there. And so anyway, that was my start into coaching officially in a school. And so I taught math and science actually at a middle school level. And then God did some things in our life and moved us back down this way, and ended up teaching and coaching at Central High School for 2 years, and then landed at Bowdon, back at the alma mater where I graduated from. And so that's where I'm at now, my 4th year.
So what was that? What do you think that coach saw in you? Who was the UGA coach you were talking about?
Coach Perno.
Perno.
David Perno.
David Perno. So you said he doesn't usually – that's not a usual manager kind of responsibility for some stuff you were doing. What was that made him –
Honestly, I think it's because I could throw the ball where I wanted to. Like throwing BP is a big deal. Like throwing BP and –
What is that?
So BP is batting practice. And so throwing a ball to a guy that's trying to hit and doing it a lot and doing it accurately so that the hitters can kind of feel what they're doing and they can hit consistently over a period of time. And I was out there throwing one day, and he's like, you should throw BP. I was like, all right, cool. So I got up there, and I did a really good job at it. And I was eager to learn, too. And I think that maybe he, saw that I was eager to get into it. Plus, he knew I wanted to coach, and I think he wanted to help me out. And I think he really wanted to help me in my career to be able to get some experience at that level, which, I mean, that's a totally different level than what I'm coaching at right now. But it was really good experience.
Yeah.
Do you have any, did you have, so you got into, teaching. Were you getting into teaching with, the understanding that you also wanted to be a coach, or was it I want to be a teacher first, and then the coaching is going to kind of be a side thing, or was it almost like a 50-50 type deal? Because, you talk about how much you love baseball, and that was your passion in life.
Mm-hmm.
Was the coaching aspect that came with teaching a big kind of factor in you wanting to become a teacher?
So really it's a calling. And because when you're in school, when you're junior year and senior year, they allow you to go and, I guess, shadow, but they call it practicum, student teaching, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And you go out and you basically shadow kind of what you're going to be doing one day. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of people will find out this is not what I want to do, because they get into the classroom and they're like, holy cow, this is crazy. Like this, I don't want to wrangle kids all day. It's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
But for me, I got into it and I really enjoyed being around the kids. I was actually at two completely different locations. One was right in the middle of Clark County, in Athens, which was a very poor area, very diverse student body. And I was in a 6th grade classroom, and there was all kinds of behavior modifications going on. There was, kids with all kinds of disabilities and special needs and things like that. And I was like, this is where I need to be.
Wow.
And then my last placement was at a school that was in Oconee County, and it was not quite as many students with special needs, things like that. But I was in an honors class and some regular classes, things like that, and still connected with those kids too. And I was like, all right, well, this is cool, man. Like, this is what I want to do. And realizing that I could then use that as a ministry type tool, just create relationships with kids and then bring, that, I guess, mentality into it, that I can be a Christian in the classroom without having to talk about the Bible. And so I guess for me, and my wife always reminds me anytime I get a little bit into coaching, she's like, remember, you being a teacher is the bigger salary. Like the coaching thing is not, it's not like if teaching was gone, the coaching would not pay the bills.
Right.
And so, teaching is obviously what we do, and coaching is just part of that. And so, a lot of times I was talking to that same student I was mentioning today, and he was asking me, what's the hardest thing for you? And I was like, priorities, understanding that the classroom is first, and then coaching is second. And that's so hard, especially in the season, to
I'll bet.
Put coaching on the back burner to make sure that my kids understand the math that I'm teaching, because I also have a reputation, and the school has a reputation that's going to rely on my coaching as well.
Yep.
And so it's really hard to prioritize that.
Well, you would hate me, man. I sucked at math so bad.
I probably love you
sucked.
then. I probably love you then.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I love to help the ones that like have no clue and
but
hate math.
Here was my thing though. I don't know if you guys ever experienced this. I was really good in the classroom. When it came to the test, everything just vanished. I was like in class, each day we would do it. You'd learn a new thing. Pythagoras theorem today. Yep, getting every single question right on practice tests. Comes to the end of year or like end of term exam, not a clue. Vanished.
It happens.
We're
actually
it.
Doing Pythagorean theorem right now, actually.
Hey.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What a coincidence.
That's one that I've told the kids that I have actually used that in my real life.
No way.
Yeah.
On the baseball field?
Nope. Well, kind of, actually. So before turf fields were a thing, right? Football coaches would, in order to square off their sidelines, would use the Pythagorean theorem. They would find out what they wanted their distance of their like end zone to be, width, and then they would measure out how long the football field needed to be, and then they would draw a diagonal, which would be your hypotenuse, right?
Right.
For your Pythagorean theorem, and then they would set up the Pythagorean theorem and figure out how long that needed to be for it to be square.
See, I'm just hearing words right now.
Well, and another way I used it building a chicken coop, believe it or not.
As you do.
To square off the base of my chicken coop. So
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I've used it some too.
I
just
couldn't
I
tell
can't
you.
identify like those moments, but out of all the algebra and pre-calc that I had, definitely use Pythagorean theorem much more.
You know, in England we call it maths, and out here it's
Plural?
math.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, oh, I've got maths today.
What's it like to say it wrong the whole time?
Well, I always say, you know, it's because it's mathematics. You know, it's not mathematic.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you could say that. I've got a mathematic class.
I'm just going to start saying maths at school.
All right, it's time for maths.
Yes, I'm going to do that and see how many kids.
Let me tell
throw
you, I got
something
a
at me.
B in maths at GCSE, and that was my proudest grade. And I did well. I got A star, 5 A's, 4 B's at my GCSEs. And I won't get into GCSEs and A levels because we'll be here all night. But a B in maths was my proudest. Actually, that and the A I got in English literature, which my teacher hated me and I hated her. So that A showed her.
It did. You won.
Proved wrong.
Yeah,
That's
she
right.
she sent me out a bunch. She even marked my coursework down on purpose, I might add. But we digress.
So you said something really interesting a while ago. That was how you've adapted, if you will. Okay, that may be the wrong word, but you've learned how to uphold these Christian values and continue to be that Christian man in the classroom without the Bible. What is that? I've seen some teachers do that, but I want to hear your perspective on kind of how you go about doing that. And
yeah, it's interesting because it really lines up with, you know, Midway's belief and life group model, to be honest, because it's all about relationship. And you know, it is true. These kids don't care anything about what I say until there's a relationship. They don't. And so this year I did try a little bit of a different approach this year. The first few weeks of school or week of school, all I did was build relationship. Like I didn't do any math, nothing, none of that.
I bet they love that.
They kind of did, but they were also uncomfortable because they had to talk to each other.
Right.
And they had to share. Like I literally cried, probably twice during the first week of school. Never done that before. And it was because I had kids get in a circle and they had to share just something about themselves that I guess other people didn't know.
Dang.
And they had to share maybe what their motivation was. I think that was one of the questions too. And you know, there were a few kids that said like, I want to be successful this year because I want to graduate from high school and I want to put my family in a better position than I am right now. And so, like, that was some real connection. And so then, you know, the rest of the year, for example, one of those people was one of our star athletes. And so I was able to hold him accountable, you know, throughout the rest of the year. Like, hey, man, remember what you said that first week of school? Like, you're trying to make a better life for your family one day than what you've experienced yourself. I was like, Coach, I appreciate that. You know, and that's a lot bigger than math. And that lends itself to that kid will come to you when they want to talk about something that has nothing to do with math. And I've had a few experiences with students that I've taken the time to listen to whenever I really probably didn't want to, or really was trying to focus on whatever I was doing at my desk or trying to get some grades in or plan or whatever, and focus, just look at them and just listen to what they have to say. And you know, I had a kid the other day tell me, I really feel like you're the only teacher that cares about what I'm saying. And I was like, well, I said, no, there's other good teachers here that care. She's like, well, I feel like you're the only one that hears me. And I was like, wow, okay. And so
that must have been a great moment for you, man.
It got chills again. I mean, I'm like, wow. Now, whether or not I'm making a difference, I don't know, as far as like sharing the gospel, because I haven't got to that point yet. But
sure.
The thing is, I guess, is try to live like Jesus, so that, you know, we can create relationships with these kiddos, and when they go through a hard time, they know, you know, I can go talk to Coach Vance. Like he's somebody I can go talk to, and so she'll, you know, it's one particular student I'm thinking about. Like she'll share with me just various things that's going on. I think, you know, she was talking about wanting to drop out, like this morning, and she came to me and told me she didn't. I was like, well, that's good. She's like, well, I don't feel like anybody else cares about that. I'm like, well, I do. Like, there's a lot of people that care about you.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there's a lot of students right now that, due to COVID and being isolated, that they're reaching. They just want relationship. They want to talk. They want somebody to care, because I don't know what's going on at home. I mean, you have no idea to know what's going on in every seat in that room, but there's a lot of stories out there.
Yeah,
a lot of stories out there, and I know you see it with the online ministry too. That, I mean, there's stories behind those faces.
Yeah,
and we just don't know. We don't know what they are, and we won't know what they are until we create a relationship with that person. And school doesn't offer itself the availability to really share the gospel, nor should it be. I mean, there's a separation there for a reason. And I don't want to have a captive audience that I'm preaching to,
Yeah.
But my players know that they can come to me. My players know that, I've put people. We got a pastor, Pastor Richards, who's the pastor at Bowdon Baptist, and he does our devotionals. And so they know they have him, they have me, they have other people they can come to talk about that. But it all starts with relationship.
Yeah. How is it, being a Christian teacher, and I understand that as a teacher at a government school, you can't just come into class every day and be like, I'm a Christian, this is what I believe. But obviously you're trying to live to a certain standard that you hold to yourself, to love on people, to see people for who they are, not to judge. You're getting, you've got hundreds of kids there, but I mean, how many kids are at Bowdon?
So we've got just shy of 400.
Okay. And so you probably see a decent portion of those kids and have a personal relationship with those kids. They're probably going to look to you not only as a teacher, but somebody that they respect on a daily basis to give them advice, no matter what they're going through. If you're having a bad day or a bad time, a bad season, how do you, as a Christian man, deal with those expectations and have to wrestle with trying to put on a brave face every single day and be the person who those kids want and, like you said, sometimes need you to be, even though it might be hard for you?
Yeah. And for me, it's this time of year. It's when baseball's going in full swing and things like that, where I've got all kinds of responsibilities that are going on. I mean, we don't have kids yet, so that's something that probably helps. But it's one of those things where that's kind of what you did the job for. And it's kind of like you walk into that room and it's like, all right, armor's on, ready to roll. But I think being vulnerable with the kids too and letting them know, like, look, like, I'm struggling right now. I luckily have not gotten to that point, but I have gotten to a point where I've been like, guys, I'm sorry, I'm a little off this week. Like, there's a lot going on. Just give me a little grace. And they do. Like, they understand that. We recently had a teacher who's we've been praying for really hard. She's at the Mayo Clinic right now trying to figure out what's going on with a lot of pain she's having. And I told my fifth period the other day, I was like, hey, let's y'all just keep our teacher in mind, because she's having a lot of pain, trying to figure it out. She's been out a lot. They've been asking about her, and they care. They notice. They're like, something's up. And two of my baseball players were like, Coach, can we pray for her today? I was like, well, yeah. I mean, at the end of practice every day we pray, and it's a volunteer thing. I'm like, we all kind of, we say touch a winner, so we kind of touch each other, and it's kind of scary for a while. I couldn't do that with COVID, but and then I asked for volunteers. Anybody want to lead us? And they volunteered that day, and they prayed for her, and it was pretty powerful.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so, I mean, these kids, man, they feel it. They once you create a relationship with them, you can be real with them, and they understand and they get it. And so it's just, I don't think we trust our kids with that a lot. I think a lot of times we just consider them, me included, little machines that are just learning math, learning English, learning science, whatever. But there's so much more than that we're missing out on, that because of COVID, because of things like that. These kids are missing out on a lot of connection that they haven't had. And to me, math's important, of course, and I'm going to teach the standards that I need to teach. But above that, I'm going to connect with these kiddos, because they need that, and I need it too. To be honest, I've been fortunate not to have gone through things that have affected my ability to teach, if that makes sense. So I haven't gone through like a big tragedy to where I've not been able to come in and do my job.
Right.
And so, but I know some coworkers that have gone through some things that are tough and have seen kids be tremendously supportive of them and just, loving on them. Just like, they'll return what you give to them. You give them love, you give them respect, and you create that relationship. They return it. Yeah. And it's very rewarding. That's the part that's rewarding is that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's a saying that, it's not about the number of wins as a coach. It's about the number of weddings you get invited to.
Wow.
And so, that, I haven't quite coached kids long enough to where they're starting to get married off yet.
Right.
Some of them are starting. And, some of the closer relationships I have are some of these kids that are starting to kind of find their way. So,
hey, that's
cool.
tough too, man, because like in that moment, each season, you're not counting the potential weddings you might get invited to,
No.
You're counting the dubs.
Yeah.
That's, I always joke with my wife. I'm always like, hopefully one day we'll have a family and stuff. And I already know I'm going to be that dad who's on the sideline yelling at the ref,
Oh, yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, do you ever, like, have to catch yourself? You mentioned that Amanda, your wife, sometimes reminds you, it's about the teaching, not about the baseball because the money.
Yeah.
But like, I even when I'm watching the football at home, sometimes I catch myself. I'm like, oh man, I'm getting too angry. Got to remind myself. Got to relax. This is not who I am. Do you ever find catch yourself? I don't want to say like going against your principles because that's not what I mean.
I've got an example for you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, go ahead.
So this was my last year in Jackson County. So this would have been, I guess 6 years ago now. So I was 6 years there. This is my 6th year back here home. And I was in my last year. We were in a playoff run, and we were in the first round at Rockmart. And very emotional game. This was game 1. No, this was game 2. Game 2. So we had lost game 1. Pretty big, actually. We kind of made a habit of that. We'd lose games. So you play a 3-game series in the playoffs, best of 3, and so the first team to win 2 games moves on.
Gotcha.
And so anyway, we had lost first game big, like bad. And we were in the second game, real tight game. Our head coach had already been restricted to the dugout, so there's kind of a process. Like the umpires will be like, all right, you need to be quiet. And then they'll say, all right, well, we're restricting you to the dugout. Well, the next step after that is you get tossed. And that's a fine. They have to write it all up. You have to sit out for 2 games to get ejected from a game.
Now, when they toss you, do you still get to yell at them from the cage, from outside the cage, or do you have to actually leave?
So they make you leave and go get I had to go get on the anyway. Let me get there. All right, so he already gets restricted to the dugout, and so we had to play it in the middle of the field. Anyway, basically, we were trying to turn double play, and their player slid and made contact with our player. Supposed to be automatic double play if it's contact that's on purpose. Anyway, he calls it safe or whatever. He was out at second, but he called no interference. And so I go out to argue because our head coach is restricted to the dugout, so I had to go argue.
Next man up.
Yep. And I was already coaching third anyway, and so I went out there to argue, and he didn't give me the answer I wanted to hear. It was, it was emotional. We were tight. It was either I think we were down by 1. So, it was like if we don't come back, if we don't get momentum here, we're done. And that group of seniors was special. We were 12 of them. It was unbelievable. And so, anyway, so I go out there, and when I left, when I started to walk away, I was fired up, and he had kept his composure as well. And I didn't get the answer I wanted. And so as I turned to walk away, I asked him what prescription his glasses were. And he tossed me.
Oh, no.
Immediately. Yeah. So, yes, my principles were violated in that moment.
Was that why you just wrestling with the Holy Spirit inside of you? You're like, don't say it, don't say it,
Absolutely.
don't say it.
Absolutely. I had done so good, and I was like, prescription are your glasses. Almost not even loud enough to where I thought he could hear me. And, apparently he tosses me from behind me. So here's where I lost my mind. I get about to the mound, and I was like, you know what? I've been tossed. I'm going to go back and figure out why.
How much worse can it get?
I knew why. So anyway, I start running back toward him. The home plate umpire comes after me, tries to get in between me and him, chest bumps me. I was like, dude, why are you touching me? I start,
okay.
I was like, why are you touching me? And he's trying to get my way, so I actually juke and then spin move around him, get to the other umpire that tossed me out, And I'm kind of fun. I'm like, why do this for the kids? Like, you're hurting the kids, all that kind of stuff. And I feel an arm or somebody grabbed me pretty strongly on my arm. I assumed it was the other umpire, so I jerked my arm away. I keep talking, and then somebody grabs this arm and that arm, and I look around and there's 3 policemen.
No.
They're not dressed
Oh,
in
no.
uniform, but they've got like their polo shirt on with a little badge on.
No
it. And so
way.
I was like, I'm good. Meanwhile, this moment, my mother, which my wife's not at this game, she couldn't make the trip, she was at work. My mother's coming out of the ladies' restroom
Oh, Lord.
as the cops are apprehending me in the middle of the field. And so she just starts screaming and running. And I'm like, I'm good. The cops are escorting me off the field. Like, they let me go. They didn't actually take me off handcuffs. But as I was walking out, like, the kids in the dugout were losing their mind. Like, one kid was crying, so, I love you, Coach. I love you, man. And so anyway, they take me out of the bus. My mom's fussing me out like, Mom, it's my fault. It's okay. Like, I should have been tossed. It's okay.
Uh-huh.
And so anyway, I'm sitting on the bus. We ended up pulling that game out. And
You won?
Yeah, we
Hey,
won.
so it worked. You got them
Dude.
fired up.
They brought me the game ball and everything. It was
Hey.
amazing. So
Man,
we come
hey,
back
write
and win
this
the next
down.
day. It was good stuff, man. We come back the next day. We win that game, and we did the same thing. 2 more series, and we got to the Final Four. So we'd lose the first game big, come back, win the next 2.
Dang.
But that was kind of a moment that got a little fired up. Right
Man,
there.
I tell you, if I was here in Georgia at the time, yeah, I would have won.
Yeah, we would have won the whole thing.
This is your year.
Yeah,
I'm telling you.
yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Dude, that's so when y'all watch film, did y'all film this one? Like,
no,
is there a
that
copy
wasn't.
that
but
I
that
can?
was actually, there's a vent. There's like a Georgia sports vent out there, and apparently that story was chronicled on it.
That's
Because
what's
like I
up.
talked to umpires, and I'm like, yeah, so I did whatever, and I was like, yeah, I think so and so was at this game. I got tossed, and they're like, that was you? I have changed
Love
since
it.
then. Like, since I've become a head coach, I have become much more mild mannered. Like, I have to control myself now.
Yeah.
Because at that point, I was an assistant. I was kind of like the guy that creates relationships, gets fired up.
Right.
But you have to change your role a little bit as you become a head coach. It changes, which is interesting. So.
Dang.
What's that? So you mentioned a little bit about how in the classroom you've seen those relationships get built and that vulnerability happen. What shifts on the field? So how does that change when you have that group of guys that are passionate about the same thing you're passionate about, but you have to keep in mind that there's another mission out here on the field too. What is that like for you?
Yeah, so for me, I've really started trying to focus on goal setting for my guys and understanding that there are things beyond baseball. My line to them is that I want them to be, the best community member, husband, and father that they can be one day. And, I said number 1 is who you are as a person. Far, far, far below that is who you are as a baseball player. Our founding, ideas are we want faith, number 1, whatever that is. I don't, say it's got to be in God or Christianity or whatever, but, faith is number 1. You got to believe in something greater than yourself to drive you, to inspire you. And, after that's family, so faith, family, and then we got school, and then we got athletics, and then we've got social life. And, I'm like, if you get that out of order, you're going to be out of luck. If you go sports, number 1, if you don't end up playing a sport for your living, then you don't have a relationship with your family. You don't have anything you believe in, right? I mean, and you didn't get a good degree. So, trying to teach these guys that there's an order to things and don't just go about your life haphazardly, and I think for my generation, speaking for like 34-year-olds in that area, we were the generation that was like, go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college, go to college. If you do anything else, go to college. Like, it's just like, go to college. And so we did, but it was kind of like, why are we going? That's because we're supposed to do what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't change anything about what I did, but, having kids make goals for themselves and understanding that it's about more than just what's right here. It's about connecting with other people. It's about having a faith that drives you more than just looking at yourself in the mirror and thinking that's it. Because, I mean, we have such an issue, just in general with our population, high school population, of, self-worth and self-esteem, things of that nature, that if they think it's about them, then they're always going to be disappointed. Always. Because, I mean, you make so many dumb mistakes and decisions, between the ages of 15 and 21. I mean, that's crazy.
For sure.
So, I mean, but if they don't have something to ground themselves on, and we talk about, I have like I said, Pastor Richards, Justin Richards, who does a really good job at Bowdon Baptist. He comes in and does a devotional with our guys every Wednesday. And Mike Wall with FCA also has worked with our guys too. And I think it's really important to put somebody in front of them every week. And of course, it's voluntary. If they don't want to be in there for it, they don't have to be.
Right.
But all the kids do. I mean, they're in there. And so it kind of speaks to what they're searching for too. They're looking for something, right? I mean, all these kids are looking for something that's greater than themselves to search for, because it's just not, yourself is not going to be fulfilling in and of itself. So, I guess with that, to try and direct them, not necessarily to me, but to someone like Pastor Richards, or, someone like that would, like I know Ryan Edwards does some devotional stuff with local teams like Central and Carrollton and things like that. And so, that relationship he has with those kids is immensely important. And I know Tucker Music, who I think is with Southern Hills.
Yeah.
He did a really good job when I was at Central of connecting with the players there too. And so I think even more than me, the church's involvement with our high schools and middle schools athletically is incredibly important.
Yeah.
Because even more than what I can say, they listen to me all day. I mean, they hear me barking out orders all the time and telling them what to do and things like that. And but I think one of the most important things that I can tell them, is that I love them, and I think that means more than anything. I don't know.
It does.
So,
no,
yeah.
Absolutely. As you said that, there's this moment, because you're right, like a head coach, like there's this fine line that you walk as trying to be vulnerable and care about your kids, but maintain that level of respect where when you got to make a call, you got to make a call. And I can remember when, like, my family is going through a lot with my parents getting a divorce and us moving around in homes and things. And I remember walking into the field house, playing football one year, and my head coach, Coach Barron, who's at Villa Rica now, he was waiting in his office for us, and he just sat down and said, "Hey man, like if there's anything you need, you call me." And my uncle was a coach, that, Shane. And so he was in the room too. He's like, "Look, like if we could change it, we would. If you could live with us, we would, and we would take you in." And there was that moment where you realize, like, oh no, like this is football. Yeah, we get it. We want to win on Friday night, but he genuinely cares about who I am and like what I'm going through. And like I don't remember the Friday nights anymore. I don't remember, but I remember very clearly that day walking into the field house and having that conversation with my head coach when all that other stuff, like you said, all that's last. And when you can have that relationship with those kids, man, like that's the weddings, you're going to get invited to and those kind of things, man. Those things last a long time when kids know, oh, he loves me. That's what love is he's willing to spend time when he could be catching up with the assistant coaches. He's spending it with me. So that's good, man. That's huge for those kids.
That is, it's really interesting to hear your guys' perspective on, being somebody who grew up playing sport at high school.
Yeah.
And somebody who's coaching sport at high school in the United States. It's very interesting for me hearing your guys' perspective on American sports versus my experience growing up in the UK playing sports out there. Because playing sports out there, it's very hands-off in terms of relationship-wise. I wouldn't, because coaches at my school weren't required to be teachers. They were, some of them were just coaches, and I would really only ever see them at practice if I had to. And then it was just them berating me for like 3 hours, trying to get us to be the best sports team they could possibly be. But in all honesty, it didn't really feel to me like they necessarily cared about me as a person. They just wanted our team to be the best. And I can understand that from, some perspective, because I guess that's technically their job at the end of the day. But it's cool to hear, and this is something that I feel like I've experienced a lot more out here on this side of the globe, in regards to the schooling system, is there seems to be a lot more of an emphasis on giving kids an opportunity to pursue sport in a serious manner if they want to, but also making it clear that there are also things that are very, very important and should be focused on too. Like, just the college system in and of itself kind of speaks to that. If you want to be a professional footballer in England, soccer player, you have to be in an academy by like 6 years old. If you're not in an academy when you're basically a toddler, you're probably not going to make it. And, then you're in that for basically the rest of your life, and you're getting schooled with your teammates, like all this kind of stuff. And if you, at any point down that line, they don't think you're good enough, you're out. That's it. Game over. At least out here, you get a relationship built with your school, and then if you want to be a professional, at least this is like the more accepted way of doing it now. You then go to college. You still have to, go to school. You still have to get an education to stay on the team. You then, at that point, if you still keep going, you can become a professional. But if you don't, if you get to that point, you do your college career like many people do, you come out with it with a degree. To me, it's just so much more important. I love that aspect of it, because you're actually building a person as opposed to just building an athlete, which I always find very, very interesting as like the differences, because it seems to me like the UK way of doing it is like, we're going to, education, personality, everything be darned. Yeah. You're going to be an elite sports player. If you're not, then, oh well, unlucky for you. So. I always just find that very interesting, but... Was there anyone in your life, Brian, who, you were talking about how, you're creating these relationships with these kids and, hopefully get invited to some weddings and things one day. Is there anyone for you when you were growing up who was that coach to you or that teacher to you? I know you mentioned your math teacher, but was there anyone who really kind of hit that home for you?
My parents were always big time influences for me. My dad always coached my little league team growing up and things like that. I think it was because, I literally thought I was going to play in the major leagues because of my dad, like because he told me I was that good. But I wasn't that good. I was not that good. And so, really, I had a coach that was a longtime coach at Bowdon. He's actually in the Georgia Dugout Club Hall of Fame now. Just got inducted this year, Stan Davis. He coached me my freshman year, and intense coach. Like, first time I ever got on the field, I went to shortstop trying to show off, and it was during BP batting practice, and a guy hit a ball to me, and it went right through my legs. Just pulled up, went right through my legs, and like everything stopped. And I looked around, and he's looking straight at me, like he was throwing batting practice. He looked straight at me. He's like, "If you're not going to do any better than that, get in the outfield." I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, what is this, man? Like, I've always been told I'm the best. What the heck?"
Yeah.
So I go to the outfield, and there's this guy out there. His name's Sully. I love this guy. He's a junior that year, and he was like, "Don't worry, Vance." He said, "That happened to me my freshman year, and I still ain't been back in the infield yet." And I was like, "Oh my gosh." So anyway, I got back to the infield, ended up playing middle infield, but that was a cool experience to like, for the first time, like, somebody have a high expectation of me and be real with me. And so, I didn't play a whole lot my freshman year. I played JV, and the next year, Mark Huggins took over. And I'd probably say he's my mentor as far as coaching goes. He's one I look to. Even now, he still teaches at the high school. He was my head coach my 3 years I was there, and really was the first one to tell me, "Hey, you're probably not going to be playing like high college level ball." He's like, "It's just not your talent." He's like, "I could get you a spot to play at what's now Point University, used to be called Atlanta Christian College in Atlanta." So I went on a visit there, and I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to start my, coaching career kind of thing. But to me, he's one that was real with me and spoke straight up and created that relationship, knew who I was. Always told me how much he enjoyed me as a leader, as a person, and just really empowered me to be a leader. And I'll never forget, he admitted one time, this was big time because it was my junior year. I had thought I was going to be in the top of the lineup and that kind of thing. Anyway, he batted me down toward the top to start off with. And later on that season, probably about 3 games after that, he said, "Look, I was wrong." He said, "You should be up here." He said, "I'm sorry." I was like, wow, like honesty,
Yeah.
I mean, just being real with me. And I appreciated that about him. And to this day, he's my pitching coach now. So he was my head coach in high school, right? And he coached for, I think, a few more years after I graduated. And then he and his wife started having kids, and he wanted to have more time with them and made a decision, made a decision to step down from coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And he umpired a little bit. And then his son now is a freshman. And so I remember when his daughter was born and standing outside the fence when I was playing. And daughter is going to be a senior next year, and his son's a freshman. And so anyway, I got talked him into being my pitching coach somehow. I don't know how I did that, but he's my pitching coach and like tremendous asset to have on my staff. But he would be the guy that I would say really kind of mentored me when I was young. Now, once I got into coaching, I had plenty of guys like Tommy Fountain, Tommy Knight, those kind of guys that were head coaches up in the area where I was up in Jackson County. They really kind of took me under their wing and taught me a lot about coaching. But I would say the guy that created a relationship with me, was real with me for the first time, would have been Coach Huggins, who I get to hang out with every day now. So
that's cool. What about spiritually?
So spiritually, man, that's a little interesting for me because I don't really know that I understood what my job was as a Christian when I was in high school. And spiritually, I don't really know that I had anyone. Now, they may have tried.
Yeah.
I just didn't see it.
Right.
But I don't know that I really had anyone that spiritually discipled or mentored me in high school. Thinking about it right now, I really don't know. Like, I would say Coach Huggins was a very godly man. Still is to this day. Like, he's a barometer. I'm like, ask his opinion on stuff because it matters. But to be honest, I don't know that I understood what it truly was to be a Christian until later on. I thought it was looking the part. Like, I'd always like I joke with my students sometimes, and when I get to speak in front of kids, I'll tell them I had a drug problem growing up. I was drugged to church every Sunday, twice, every Wednesday, Bible school, everything. I was there because my parents were very involved, and, I was there all the time. And so I looked the part. Like, I looked the part. Like, I knew how to walk in the doors and look very Christian-y. You know? But then I'd go into the schools and into the hallways, and middle school was my time where I was, like, not the same person you see on Sunday. Like, it was a very different person, very judgmental, pretty hateful. Didn't have my priorities in the right place, really searching for my identity in middle school, which for us is 6th through 8th grade. Yep. And that's a little different over the ocean. But, for me, those were my years where I really searched. Oh. And, thinking about it through high school, really I just kind of settled in on, I guess who I was as a Christian as far as looking the part. I mean, and I never really, don't know that I tried to reach people in high school like I should have. So spiritually wise, I would say I really didn't have a spiritual mentor probably till I was in Athens. Probably graduated probably around 2011 or so. And a guy named Steve Smith who really started investing in me as a Christian, as a man. Started kind of teaching me, what it was to pray, invited me to do prayer walks, things like that, and I really started kind of getting into what's this whole discipleship thing. Started leading devotionals with the team that I had up there as an assistant coach at that time. Would wait after practice, anybody wants to stay, we're doing a devotional. Had some pretty emotional moments there, but as far as mentorship, that's kind of a tricky question.
Yeah, I mean, one thing you said in there, which I found really interesting, was this this idea of coming in and looking like the best Christian you possibly can, coming in every Sunday, coming in on Wednesdays. And I'm painting with broad strokes here, but I think I'm confident in saying that I think we all as Christians have been there, at least at points where we're coming to church every Sunday, we're going to a life group, and, outwardly we're looking like that person. And maybe on Sundays we are that person, but then when we go down the road and go to the restaurant and we don't tip, or during the week we aren't that person, it can be really hard to, remind yourself every single day of the week to be that. And if you're a teacher, if you're a coach, if you're a pastor or whatever, people are looking at you, and if they know you go to church, it's even tougher to be the person who you claim you are on Sundays,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes, it's especially in a profession like where you have so many young people that are just sponges of humans, man. They just absorb everything, and they count on, and they want those relationships. Like, it's hard to be vulnerable and say, oh, I'm going to trust this person with some more personal stuff. Like, that's a fine line for teachers. And so, you've almost got to maintain that to an extent, just part of your job. But I'm so appreciative of those people. Like Brian Long's a great example of a teacher who, and Zach Janney, two guys at Heard County that are great examples of that, maneuvering that fine line when they saw a student like me that was like craving someone to mentor, somebody to just show me the ropes, and they opened up and that kind of stuff. So, like, there's definitely a line, but, man, I'm thankful for all those that I sought after that said, you know what, bump the image for a minute. Let me just be real. So,
well, I'm going to say, too, to that, I think that people like me discount their story a lot.
Yeah.
Because, you go to, different conferences, Super Wow, different youth conferences that you go to, and all the stories that you hear are the ones of people that were like on drugs or came from broken homes and just came from these situations, and they got caught on fire for God. And it's like, I've never been there.
Yeah.
Like, I've never, like, my biggest issue is that I was basically a lukewarm Christian, which you can argue might even be worse than, being an alcoholic.
Agreed.
Because, I mean, it's, and to me, like, it was always a big time thing to where I discounted my own testimony of what I had gone through, not having been much. And I think that might be why I never really got mentored, is because it didn't really seem like I needed it. I mean, it's like, oh, he's got it together. All right, let me go try this other kid. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because, for me, I see a lot of kids that are like me, because we have a lot of really good kids at our school that come from good homes, but we also have a lot of kids that don't.
Yeah.
And I try to invest in all of them, but at the same time, it's kind of like I want to make sure these kids that think they're doing things the right way, that they also get mentored and get told what they should be doing, and get shown, not told, but get shown in the Bible. This is what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be making disciples. When was the last time you walked through the hallway and spoke to someone that is not a Christ follower on purpose? Or even tried to hold somebody accountable who says they are?
Yeah.
And that was kind of me. I would just walk through the hallways being like, I'm good. Like, look at me. I mean, I've got it together, kind of thing. And, internally I didn't. That was very, very hard to come to grips with once I started seeing kids in action, per se, when I started teaching. And I'm like, oh, that was what I look like. Like that probably overconfident kid that seems like he's got it together, but really internally is like battling about, what is this? What am I supposed to do as a Christian? Like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah. There is a lot to be said about what you've just spoken to there, I think, because you're right. I mean, a lot of these big testimonies you hear from people are about they've come to this, this absolute what's the freaking word? Just like a point of no return in their lives where God has stepped in, and that's when they had that come to Jesus moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But not everyone is like that, yourself included, and that's why I think it's so cool that we get to do this right here, right now. We get to have you on, we get to have you sharing your story, and all these amazing things that you're doing right now. It doesn't have to just come from you don't have to necessarily be at the very bottom of the barrel to be picked up by Jesus, Like, Jesus is there for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what you do once you have him in your heart that's the important thing,
Mm-hmm.
And we can look and act in many, many different ways, but you're a coach and you can see those kids who might not necessarily be the ones who are going to see the school counselor every day, but who come to you and say, hey, you know what, coach, even though, my home life is, pretty fine, they don't necessarily come and talk to you about that. You actually are one of the only teachers here who listens to me and I feel heard by. That's super, super important because they might not necessarily feel heard by the person who comes in to church and tells them about their drug problem and how they got saved, because that might not speak to them. But somebody who just asks them every day how they're doing and, do you need a hand with something? Do you want somebody to talk to you about anything? You're that guy for them. Yep. I think that's super, super powerful and really important. And I think that I can personally take a lot from that, reaching out to people, like you said, who may walk down the corridor at church and don't look like they need somebody to say hi or give them a fist bump or whatever, but maybe they do. Yep. That's really good. Really important, I think.
I think they definitely do.
Yeah.
They definitely need that. I think we underestimate that. Yeah, a lot. I know I do when I got something on my mind. I got to go do it. And they just need a smile. They just need someone to know that they care.
Especially, when you got to go flick that live stream on it and then sprint back and then, go run a camera and you do all that fun stuff on a Sunday.
It's about the people.
Someone's like, hey, Connor. You're like, oh God.
I love you.
It's about the people. That's because I think it's the first time we came here to Midway, my wife and I, we'd just moved back. It was 2016. The church was going through some interesting things at that time. Rex Pear had just passed away, whom we didn't know. We'd never met him. But I know that happened, and then it was like Todd's celebration of so many years being here. And so there was a lot of things going on. And we came in that summer, and it was the first summer of the Summer of Psalms, back when. And I just remember crying every service for the first 3 months that we came here.
Wow.
Dang. That's a lot of emotion.
Yeah, and it wasn't like the whole service, so we weren't walking out dehydrated, but it was something in the service in the message got us moved, and we've talked about that numerous times, and I think it was the first time that we were actually presented with what the mission is, which is to go and make disciples.
Mm-hmm.
And it's before that it was just so cloudy. I would do a devotional with players, but I wasn't discipling them per se. I was sharing the gospel. I was sharing a Bible story and then hoping they would respond, which sometimes they did. And then we would pray. I'd teach them how to pray. We'd do prayer walks, that kind of thing. But I guess you could look at that as discipling, but I didn't know I was doing that. I just thought I was sharing a little devotional and then moving on. Maybe they'll pick it up, maybe they don't. But it's the first time we really heard about what is discipleship. What does it look like to share the gospel and then go walk alongside people while they're learning how to do it themselves. And it was so powerful for us to just hear that preached from the pulpit, from the stage. And, we were immediately hooked. Yeah. And just the mission of the church, and then we kind of liked the fact that we could sneak in and out and nobody knew who we were because it's such a big church. And then I was like, well, hang on a second. We're supposed to be discipling, well, hang on. What got us so emotional? We're not even doing it. And so, we jumped into a life group and then it really became real. It's okay, this big church can actually seem really small by creating relationships with people.
Yeah.
And so, for
That's
you to
what
say
it's
it's all about the people like that, that's what clued us in, immediately. So
You're
all
about to
about the
celebrate
people.
some of that stuff, man.
Oh, yeah.
Dave shared with you guys having the conversation, timelining of a branch coming up for your
it's
life
exciting,
group,
man. It's
Exciting and sad.
Yeah, birthing is painful. I mean,
Not
I'm
that we three men would know
No, we have
anything
no
about
idea.
that.
But the mothers out
Yeah, it's
there,
super painful, man.
they would understand. They would understand that birthing is painful. We've got 4 awesome couples that are in our group that all came in around the same time, around the same age, and it's almost like God kind of built it for a branch. And just it's hard because they're all awesome and they input greatly to our group.
Stop.
And and Dave's gonna co-lead that, and it's gonna be amazing. They're gonna be launching in August, and we've got kind of some steps to disciple and to co-lead together over the next few months, and so it's gonna be really cool. Really cool.
It's exciting, man.
Yeah,
And that's a great way to think about how all this kind of fits together in the sense of, teaching or trying to build relationships in life group or pastoring or whatever. Like, it seems like there's, especially I'm guessing from the outside, like there's such a job description. Like, hit all these bullet points and make sure you got your stuff. But at the end of the day, man, like tomorrow's gonna be different than it was today, and you're gonna find yourself in more moments where it's like, hey, I'm reaping some of those moments where I was learning and growing in the past to where now, you're branching a life group and you're having students lead in prayer for their teachers, and you're seeing those things, but it's you don't look back and see those. Oh yeah, through November to December, we did this huge campaign for growth in spiritual realm for our students. Like, it was the daily grind of building that relationship with them and maintaining we're keeping the main point of let's keep this focused and on mission, and if you do that every day, man, where it's just choosing to do that, choosing to take that next step of, it's cloudy sometimes, but we know the mission and we know the purpose, and now we get to see other people grab that and feel invited into that, and now they can start joining us.
Well,
So
I think we get a bad name a lot as Christians, and it's our own fault.
Oh yeah,
because a lot of times people be like, pray for me. I'll pray for you. Do we?
Thoughts and prayers.
Do we?
Yeah.
It's like, you reading your Bible? Yeah. Are you? It's like, are we being hypocritical about what we believe? And I think that's something that really challenged me probably, I guess, within the last 3 years, really, trying to read through the Bible and get myself in a routine so that I'm built for what the day has.
Yeah.
And challenging myself, because I'm not really an extroverted person. Like, I'm a little more introverted than I've made myself be an extrovert, because that's how you create relationships with people. And and so, it's not comfortable for me, but it's one of those things to where I know that's how you reach other people. And, when somebody says, hey, will you pray for me? Just doing it on the spot, and I'm like, that terrifies me.
Yeah.
Oh
because
boy.
it's like, somebody brand new that I'm like, I don't really know you a whole lot, but, you want me to pray for you. And, it just, to me, as Christians, I think we can model better what Jesus did. And I should use I statements. I should model better, what Jesus did. And I think as a Christian, speaking of students, a lot of them will think, you go to church and they write you off because of what they've experienced in the past.
Yep.
And I try not to be like, yeah, go to church and throw that out there, because I want them to create a relationship with me without that being a barrier.
Yeah.
And so it's just so important for those relationships to happen, and just to love people.
Yeah.
I think right now in our society, obviously we're lacking that a little bit. But just loving people, loving kids, loving everybody that's around you. That's what life group's all about.
Yeah.
Loving on people and encouraging people, and just making an impact day to day. So,
Real Life Ministries has that's the church that we model our life group model after. They have that mission, that vision, that they're going to reach, or they're going to share the good news of Jesus one person at a time. And to really fathom that, like their
Mm.
church is like 11,000 people in life groups.
Holy moly.
Yeah, dude, it's nuts. And so, but to them, like the reason that they've seen that scale is because people have caught on that, oh, we don't have to sit and preach to 3,000 people.
Mhm.
We've got to reach this one person
Mm.
right now.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that just, multiplied.
And the painful part about that is you have to lose people. That's also the
Yeah.
exciting part about it is
Yeah.
because now, Dave and all they're going to go and they're going to create this new big life group, and then that life group's going to branch, and they're
Nope.
going to reach even more people. That life group is going to branch. I will speak it over him.
Absolutely. Multiply, not multiply.
Absolutely.
That's
Well,
right.
I think that's a great stopping point. We talked about a lot of great stuff tonight. I've really, really enjoyed this chat. It's always cool to get different perspectives, different walks of life. Having a teacher and a coach at the same time is certainly some unique perspectives on things, especially with the kids. That's not something I'm familiar with, and something I wish I had a lot as a kid. So, hey, when do you guys play normally? Just in case anybody who's listening to this wants to come and support you.
It'll be any time between February the 15th and the end of April.
Is there a place they can find a schedule or something?
Yeah, they can go to bowdonbaseball.com.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll be there for one game at least. We're going to have our life group descend. Proper rowdy night. It's going to be life group
You
night.
can wait for it to warm up a little bit if you want to.
Hey, we'll make it warm.
There you
There
go.
you go.
It'll be a party. It'll be great. We're going to bring a boombox. Do walkout.
Lord.
Do you have walkout music?
We do, yeah.
Sweet.
Dave's going to hijack it.
He might.
Yeah.
He might.
What about MCs? Do you have an MC? Like an
Yes.
announcer?
Yes, we do.
Can I do that?
Imagine that at Bowdon High School. A man with an English accent.
That's what I'm wondering. Do I go like super posh, or do I just like proper like London? Like, up next, we've got this.
I think
That's what you need.
Whatever that is what we need.
All right, sounds good. Alrighty, well, if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. I don't know how long we've been going, but over an hour, I think. Really personally enjoyed it. If you've listened to the other episodes, thank you again. If you haven't, go check those out. We've got one with that Connor and I did, one with Pastor Luke, which we do still need to follow up on. And then episode 3 was with Mackenzie Pear. Another great episode. So if you haven't listened to those, go listen to those. If you are enjoying our podcast, leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever it is. Feel free to send Connor and I a message. You can even message Brian. I'm telling you can do this.
Come on.
And, if you're a member of our church, come say hi. We're often hanging around or doing live streams or whatever. We would love to talk to you guys. And if anyone has any questions about anything that they've heard or anything unsolicited, feel free to connect with us, because that's kind of why we're trying to do this. And been getting some good feedback so far. So we're going to keep at it. But thank you again, Brian, for joining us. It's been a great time.
Thank you, man.
Y'all are awesome.
Any
I
final
appreciate it.
comments from either of you?
I really enjoyed listening to the other 3 episodes
Hey,
that
thanks.
have already come out. So you guys are doing a great job. I appreciate you guys having me.
No, thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for what you do.
Got it, man.
Make a big point.
Anything, Connor?
That's it, man.
All right.
It's a wrap.
It's late, so we'll let you guys get home to your wives. And my wife. I am married.
I was like, wait a minute.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are. Peace out.